Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Unbiased America Live. I'm here with Kevin Ryan from Unbiased America, uh, Michael Lee from Being Liberal Logic, and myself, Will Riccadella from The Analytical Conservative and Unbiased America. And we have a special guest here, former Congressman Colonel Allen West. We're here to discuss the Iran deal. A lot of our viewers may not know much about the deal, its implications, its merits and demerits. I want to start from the beginning, under the umbrella of Obama's broader foreign policy, which, in my opinion, I'll be honest here, has been horrible. So when he's negotiating with Iran, Colonel West, is he negotiating from a position of power? Does he have any leverage? I mean, here's a guy that drew a red line in Syria and did nothing about it. His idea of victory in Iraq was withdrawal. Would the Iranians take seriously, even if he said all options are on the table, but do you think Iran took that seriously when entering the negotiations?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you all, and absolutely not. There is no moral high ground for the United States of America, and just Monday of this week, the Middle East Media Research Institute, MEMRI, put out a special bulletin that outlined that America had been in covert secret negotiations with Iran going back to 2011. And in the letter that was sent via Oman to the Iranians from the Obama administration, this letter said that there would not be any stemming or any cessation of Iran's nuclear program, and that's exactly what you see happening. And when you talk about, having a viable and credible military threat, just think about the fact that during these negotiations, the Obama administration announced that we were going to cut our active duty army by 40,000. That for the first time since 2007, the carrier battle group that we have in the Persian Gulf will not be replaced on station. There will be about a 2 to 3 month gap before we can get another carrier battle group there. And this all reminds me very much so of the appeasement and the fear of engaging that we saw in the early days leading up to World War II from about 1936 to 1938, when Adolf Hitler realized that Britain and France and the other Western powers did not have a stomach to confront him, and so therefore he took the Rhineland, he took the Sudetenland, he took Czechoslovakia, and Neville Chamberlain went and got the piece of paper that was signed in Munich, which Hitler later referred to it as nothing but a piece of paper, and he shredded it up. And so this is exactly what we have happen today when we hear that the only alternative that we have is to go to war. Well, when you say that, you show a recalcitrance and you show an inability to be able to have a credible threat. Then the other side gets what they want, and that's exactly what has happened with the Iranian deal.
That it does draw some eerie parallels to the interwar period of the 20s and 30s. That's for sure. My next question actually is, what exactly did we get out of the deal? It doesn't seem like we got anything. They keep all their nuclear facilities open. One is under a mountain range. Why do they need to keep that open? It seems as though the Iranians just get their sanctions lifted, they get a whole bunch of money, and we don't get anything. I mean, it's all based on the fact that somehow we trust them to stop enriching uranium.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're talking about the #1 sponsor of Islamic terrorism in the world. We couldn't even get our 4 American hostages back, and we just had Jason Reznian, who had his hearing earlier this week, and he's still being held over there, along with Saeed Abedini, Amir Hekmati, and Robert Levinson. So we couldn't even secure 4 Americans. But when you look at what is going to happen from now to out to year 15, billions of dollars in unfrozen assets, the sanctions being lifted, will flow back to Iran. We already have companies, even some U.S. companies, that are looking into the new markets and economic deals that they can leverage with the Iranians, to include opening up their oil markets. So they will become an economic power, and revenues will start to flow. In year 5, The UN weapons embargo on conventional arms are being lifted, but Iran is already talking to China about purchasing fighter jets in exchange for oil. We know that General Qasem Soleimani, who is the head of the Quds Force, who was on an international travel ban, has been in Russia, talking to them about arms deals and negotiations, which include new aerial refueling tankers and also the S-300 anti-aircraft system. Then at year 8, ballistic missile embargo will be lifted on Iran. In year 10, they will be able to go back spending all of their centrifuges, which during these negotiations there have been a 20% increase anyhow. And then in year 15, they will be able to build new nuclear reactors. And all of this happens for the United States of America, who cannot be on any inspection team. And as well, there is a secret side deal between the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and Iran that is not privy to the United States of America. So we didn't get jack out of any of this.
Right. I mean, those timetables you mentioned. What incentives does Iran have to stick to those timetables? What are they? Why would they even care about the timetables that are in the deal? I don't see why they would care and just continue doing what they're doing, and you know, and get all the money. I mean, this dowry that essentially that we're giving them.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's the parallel of what you saw with Adolf Hitler and the Western powers, where he continued to do these belligerent and obtuse actions, and he was rewarded for it. So it becomes very Pavlovian. And we keep hearing this thing about, you know, snapback sanctions. Well, there is no such thing as a snapback sanction because it requires a committee, the entire P5+1, which also includes Iran, to sit down and talk about reinstituting the sanctions. And we know that's not going to happen once you open up these new economic markets and the oil markets. And furthermore, Iran is not going to agree to that. And the anytime, any place inspections, well, now is 24 days. And I'm sure Iran will push it out to 60 days, maybe 90 days. But again, the United States of America is not part of any inspection team. So we don't have a say-so in the verification as to whether or not they're adhering to this joint comprehensive plan of action.
Okay, one more question from me, and then I'm going to kick it over to Kevin. A lot of people think that Iran's merely a nuclear threat. I mean, aren't we? I mean, I wouldn't say we're actively. Well, yeah, in a way, we're actively fighting a war against Iran. They are our enemies. They are funding a lot of these terrorist organizations that are actively fighting the United States of America. So they're not just. They don't exist just as a nuclear threat. Also, we lifted the embargo on conventional weapons. Not only are we giving them money, it seems we're arming them.
No, you're absolutely right, Will. And what you have to understand is that Iran has been at war with the United States of America since 1979. 1983, with the Beirut barracks bombing, where 234 Marine sailors and soldiers lost their lives. That was Hezbollah, which is supported by Iran. When you understand that 20% of the deaths in Iraq are attributed directly to Iran due to the explosive force penetrator improvised explosive device that they created and they were supplying to terrorists. So, you know, right now, this is what we are enabling Iran to do, enabling Iran to continue to be an even greater sponsor of terrorism. We're enabling them to be an economic power, a military power, and then again, eventually, in year 15 or so, but probably before that, a nuclear power. And all because, you know, we have a president that says he has achieved something that no one else has achieved, and the reason why no one else has sought to achieve it, because it's a pretty stupid thing to do.
All right. Kevin, you're up.
Yeah, Colonel West, President Obama responded to criticism of the deal by saying that it was premised on the idea that if the United States walked away, that we'd be able to, quote, keep sanctions in place with the same vigor and effectiveness that we have right now. And that, I can promise you, is not true, unquote. He said that without the deal, the international sanctions regime would fall apart, and as would our ability to reimpose them. What's your take of that defense that he's portrayed? Did you believe that's true?
Well, I mean, look at what is happening already. I mean, because of the president going to the United Nations before allowing our representatives to research this even deeper and have a vote on Capitol Hill, and it's not a treaty, you know, that's another issue. He went, and the United Nations, the Security Council, unanimously endorsed it. And so you have countries and companies that are already looking to go in and establish economic relationships and trades and markets with Iran. So, if we had just stood by our guns and put more pressure on Iran, we had a coherent international coalition. I don't understand why we are leading the effort to make Iran the #1 state sponsor of Islamic terrorism even stronger than it is. I mean, why are we providing billions of dollars in unfrozen assets, new revenues, so that they can do what? They're not going to build better housing. They're not going to build better roads for the people. They're not looking at growing, small businesses. They're looking at doing the one thing they have sworn to do, and that is to destroy Israel and eventually destroy the United States of America. So the president comes out with these false narratives and these straw men that I guess the mindless lemmings can agree with and follow, but anyone with a percentage of brain operating capacity and capability realizes that the president of the United States of America is supporting terrorism. That's just the bottom line.
Kevin, hold on. I'm sorry. Just to clear up your question, Alan, what you're saying is this money, when we lift the sanctions, this money doesn't go to the people. It's not there to help improve their standard of living. It's not a democracy. I think a lot of people think that this is somehow some sort of this economic liberty, that if they get this money, that this goes directly to the people. They don't really have property rights there. It's really just a strong central government, the iron fist of government that take. And they're going to use this money to fight their wars, essentially.
Absolutely. Iran is a theocracy, and Iran is supporting Hamas, Iran is supporting Hezbollah, Iran is supporting the Houthis, Iran is supporting its Revolutionary Guard and Guards and Quds forces and their operations that they're doing in Iraq. This is no different from us, establishing diplomatic relations with Cuba. Between the two of them, Iran and Cuba, you have two of the greatest human rights violators on this earth. And why are we establishing relations and opening up economic revenues and unfreezing assets to these type of countries? I mean, these are countries that go against every single fundamental principle and value that the United States of America is supposed to stand for. But then I guess we are in the fundamental transformation era of our country.
Yeah, I have one more question about the 24-day delay that there's supposed to be between when an inspection is announced and when it actually takes place. There's contradicting claims about whether or not that 24 days is long enough for them to hide any sort of illicit activity, or whether or not it's just too difficult to hide, uranium, traces of uranium, and so forth. What's your take on that?
Well, my first take is, why would we even trust the Iranians to believe that they will adhere to 24 days? They're already telling us which facilities they will allow us to go into. And again, the United States of America is not part of any inspection team. So we don't have a dog in the fight, and we signed up for that, which is unconscionable. We went into this negotiation under the premise, at least President Obama said so, that it was about ceasing Iran's ambitions toward nuclear capability and capacity. And all we have done, and the president admits it, is that we have maybe delayed it or slowed it down so that 15 years from now they'll be back at the point that they are in now. I don't trust them for that. And, it's very easy for President Obama to say that when he's only got, 16, 17 more months and he'll be gone. And we will have to be the ones, our children and grandchildren will have to live with this legacy. So when Iran says, or this agreement says that it will be 24 days, who can determine if it won't be, like I said, 48 days, 60 days, 90 days? The Iranians will continue to delay, just as they have continued to stall and delay this entire nuclear negotiation process, which is just an aberration of what true diplomacy should be.
I mean, yes, Secretary Kerry and the energy secretary said in 24 days it's not enough time to clean up whatever it is that they're doing. So why is it 24 days at that point? Why not make it 1 day if it really makes no difference? I mean, that's confusing.
Well,
to me.
that's my whole point.
Right.
You're absolutely right. That's my whole point. Why, why would you say, okay, we'll give you 24 days? When I was a commander in the military, if our first sergeants and our command sergeant major told the soldiers, we're going to inspect your barracks in 24 days. Well, guess what's going to happen over, the next 23 days before you get to day 24? And they may bet that you will, hold off, and maybe it'll end up happening on day 25 or 26. So this is foolish.
All right, and now at this point, I'm pretty sure Mike has a ton of questions. Mike was also in the Army at one point. I'm sure he's got a lot of questions for you. So go ahead,
Thanks
Mike.
for your service, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Colonel West, and thanks for coming on. My main question is, I'm a believer that the sanctions we did have in place were a good thing, and they were at least somewhat effective. I don't know if you agree. But my main question is, if we had this international sanctions regime in place, and President Obama says that it eventually wouldn't have lasted, and they wouldn't be easy to snap back in place, why didn't we at least keep the sanctions in place until that we could verify that they had destroyed all their nuclear facilities? If you don't think that is a good idea, what would have been a better alternative in your mind to make sure that Iran doesn't become a power player in the Middle East or become a nuclear weapons state?
Well, Michael, you just hit the nail on the head. Instead of this immediate lifting, there should have been gradual lifting that was based upon conditions that are met. And that goes back to the original question that Will asked. It seems like we got nothing out of this. Before we even sat down at the table, we should have said we want our 4 Americans back. And again, when you look at the report that the Middle Eastern Media Research Institute put out, this thing seems to have been cooking back in 2011 when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was still the president. And based upon the reports coming out of Iran and the translation of speeches and documents and other things, it seems the Obama administration said that they would not seek to stop the Iranian nuclear program. And I think that now that we see the results of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that's exactly the case. So it should have been about, these are the conditions that will be met up front before we even sit down, the release of all Americans. We should talk about their human rights violations, and then we should have been, basing everything upon gradual relief of sanctions based upon certain conditions being met by phases. But Iran knows right now, between now and year 15, they Katie barred the door, and we are enabling and assisting and aiding and abetting and providing material support and comfort to a terrorist nation.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. My follow-up question to that would be, assuming this deal does get implemented and put in place as planned, obviously this president's not going to do anything different. It's pretty much hopeless at this point. But what would be your recommendation for an administration after Obama leaves office, whether that's a Republican or a Democrat? How can we handle the new realities in Iran going forward, even after this deal is put in place?
Well, I will tell you first and foremost, if this country were to fail itself again and have a Democrat president, they're just going to continue on with the legacy of President Obama, and there will be no change. But the most important thing, if you get someone that is not Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, or Martin O'Malley, we have to restore our military credibility, because in that part of the world, they only respect strength and might, and the military is there as a deterrent force. Then we have to once again reassemble an international coalition that will not allow Iran, which is still a country listed on a global terrorist list, to be able to reach the goals and objectives that they want. We have to start looking at reinstituting the sanctions against them, because I guarantee in the next 17 months they will violate something, and it'll be a test of resolve, just the same as kids do with parents all the time. So, I think that it is very important that we have a plan by which companies or some countries that are doing business with Iran, just the same as we did with South Africa and the whole thing with apartheid, we're able to, put restrictions and sanctions on other countries and countries that are doing business with them. I find it absolutely incredible that we are sitting around right now and there's an anti-Semitic movement called the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. But yet we're about to lift, all of the sanctions on Iran. So we're on the wrong side of history as a country right now, and we need to make sure we have a statesman leader that will get us back on the right side.
Totally agree with you. My last question would be, Obama said in his speech and his explanation about the deal that it was either this or potentially having to use military action. It's my opinion that this deal actually makes military action more likely or more necessary just down the road, and that Iran will be in a stronger position if it ever does come to that. How do you feel about that?
No, you're absolutely right. And as I stated earlier, Iran is already talking to China about purchasing new fighter jets. Iran is talking to Russia about purchasing aerial refueling tankers and the S-300 anti-air missile defense system. This is the exact same argument that Adolf Hitler realized with Britain and France after World War I, that they were timid. They would rather appease him and compromise and acquiesce to him, and he used that to his advantage, just the same as the Iranians are using it to their advantage right now, just the same as Russia is, just the same as China is, and just the same as the global Islamic jihadist movement is. When you're telling people what you are not willing to do, they will exploit you. And, you know, now that we have a leader that is telling all the despots, dictators, theocrats, and autocrats that we're not willing to stand up and fight for anything, well, look at what has happened since his reelection in 2012. And I got to tell you, they're going to continue to press this for the next 16 to 17 months. And if this country does not correct itself with the right type of principled, exceptional leadership this country deserves and needs, then it will continue on. And the future does not look good for the United States of America, our allies, but it does look good for our enemies.
I agree with you 100% there. Thank you for answering those questions, Colonel.
Thanks for having me.
Go ahead, Will.
All right, Colonel West. One more question before you go. I know you got to go. Who are you supporting in the primary so far? Who do you see as a standout, good conservative candidate?
You know, it is so early, guys. I mean, you just saw the first debate last week, Thursday, and you had an incredible shuffling. I mean, look at, you know, the three outsiders of, you know, Donald Trump, Dr. Ben Carson, Carla Fiorina, are now within the top six when you look at most of the polls that are out there. So we are nowhere near settling this. I believe that by the end of, you know, November, the end of the year, I think we'll be closer to understanding who are the front runners going into 2016, and of course the caucuses in Iowa, and then the first primary in New Hampshire. But right now, I think that the American people need to know that there is someone that will not be partaken with the status quo and with the political elite class, but they do have a vision for this country, which is so necessary to restore our economy, our energy security, and our national security. And when it comes to foreign policy, they will be an American leader of strength and resolve, and not acquiescence and appeasement.
All right, and also, would you mind sharing this on your Facebook page? You have a great page.
Oh, well, sure. I appreciate that very much. We can make that happen.
All right, thank you so much, Colonel West. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime.
I look forward to it, Will.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all the best. Bye-bye, guys. Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, everybody.